I bet if we went back 5 or 10 years, we couldn't anticipate this.
Absolutely, and I'll take it even a step further. If you told me 5 or 10 months ago, I wouldn't have thought this was the case. So.
Meet Palle Bo, a digital nomad from Denmark on an epic journey around the world. At the age of 50, he made a bold decision. He sold everything, his house, his car, his furniture, and set out with a quest to visit every single country in the world, documenting everything along the way. This is the Radio Vagabond Podcast.
Welcome to the Radio Vagabond Podcast. I'm Palle Bo, and I'm still in Natchez, Mississippi, this wonderful, small, historical city. And I'm still chatting to my new friend, Jax, from England, just before she's leaving. As I mentioned, we're house-sitting the same house where the owner, Kim, is traveling, and she needed someone to feed and take care of her cats and her house for a month. Kim had already left a week before I got there, so Jax took the first week and I'm taking the next 3 weeks.
We briefly talked about house sitting, and if some of the listeners might not know what house sitting is, I mentioned it a little bit on my podcast from the Bahamas, but it's a website called Trusted House Sitters that you and I are using. There are other out there, but that's the one we're using. And how does it work?
Basically, you join a company, you pay them a small fee, I think it's like $100, something like that, for the year. They send you pictures of houses via email every day, and on there it tells you a house and the date they're going away, leaving their pets or just the home. Mm-hmm. And then you decide whether you want to visit that part of the world. You introduce yourself via Trusted House Sitters. You make a profile up which tells you about yourself, and you need references, you need to be police checked, and then you have a conversation.
You need to be police checked. I haven't been police checked.
Well, I have.
Oh dear.
So are you a criminal? You don't look it. You need to be police checked, and then you then start chatting. Mm-hmm. And then if you see somewhere, they say, yeah, hi, you know.
And typically you talk on Skype or...
Yeah. Normally you would Skype, and then you'd say, okay, I'm happy to do it. You shake on the deal, and that's it. Your words, your bonds, and you make your plans, you book your flight, and you head over. And it's free accommodation.
Exactly.
The only thing you have to do is pay for your flight. It's free accommodation. Look, where I stayed in Charlotte, though, the gentleman said to me, we're more than happy to, if you were to come again, we would pay your flight. They were so happy with the way I looked after the house and, the garden and his pets. And he just said, we would pay for your flight next time because we know it's a lot of money because it's, it can be up to £1,000 to fly to the States.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really nice. And I said, oh, don't be daft. But, if I needed to, I'll go, when you said.
Don't be daft.
Typically English.
Yeah. And this house is a very nice house. Kim, the owner, she's a school teacher, and at the moment she's traveling to Israel and Morocco, and she's got 3 cats that she loves more than life itself. They never run outside. They're always inside, but they're lovely cats, and our job is to feed them and make sure that the litter box is emptied and the mailbox is emptied, and just take care of the house, and it's a nice place. And
it gives you free. Cats are great because they give you free time. You feed them, and then you go off on the day and you've got the whole day to explore. If it's a dog, it's slightly different because you have to walk it twice a day and stuff, and they need you have to chew your house up. So you've got, if it's a cat, it's easier. Yeah. You can travel like we've done every day. We've been out doing stuff, so it's been amazing.
At some point, I've got a house sit, and that's the whole of September and 3 bigger dogs. So that's going to be a handful.
Oh, that's company, though. You'll never be lonely, will you?
No.
That's a good thing about dogs, though. They do keep you company. Big cuddle.
Yeah, the cats were a little bit shy in the beginning when I came, but now they're always there when it's feeding time for some reason. Yeah.
They're not daft, are they?
Yeah.
They're not daft. No, she loves her fur babies, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Everybody does.
Yeah. Thank you so much for keeping me company a few days, and
it's been a pleasure. Natchez will always remind me of Palle Bo. My friend Palle Bo.
I'm sure I'll see you again somewhere out there. Maybe 4th of July in New Orleans.
You're more than welcome. Wherever I am in the world, you can say, hey, Jax, where are you? And I'll say, hey, I'm in New Zealand. And you go, you know what? I'm coming. I'll go, okay, I'll see you in a bit, boy. I'll see you in a bit. Tell me when you come and I'll come pick you up.
As you might hear, being in the deep south made this very English woman speak like Dolly Parton. And there is something about this wonderful southern dialect that gets to you. I'll let you hear some more dialect. During my stay in Natchez, I spoke to a few other locals. One of them was a very interesting guy that I got to know from the local Rotary Club. His name is Forrest Johnson.
Yes.
And the first thing I said is run, Forrest. And you are actually a runner.
Do a little running, yes. I've got a hobby of running marathons and plan to run one in each of the 50 U.S. states. So, yeah.
How many have you done so far?
I've done 16 so far, so about a third of the way there and just grinding them out. So,
yeah. That must be a great way to see your home country.
It really is. The geography of the United States is very diverse, and so it's very very rewarding, very very fun to travel around different places, really see a city, and so it's something I enjoy very much. Yeah.
Do you get to do some sightseeing as well when you're in a city?
Absolutely. So love see the sights, the local cuisine, and just get a little local flavor of the culture. So absolutely.
So you must be the right person to ask. How is the South and Natchez in particular a difference from other places in the U.S.?
Yep. So one thing about the U.S. the depending on where you are, you might think you're in a different country, and so there's a lot of dispersion, from the South, the North, the West, and different places. The South, we've culturally sometimes referred to as a little bit behind the country, tend to be more conservative, more rural, not as urban, and the pace of life is a little slower, which is nice. It's we don't have a lot of traffic jams. You don't spend an hour commuting to work. It's a little bit more laid back, and so a little bit slower pace of life, and we certainly enjoy that.
I bet people from New York coming here are thinking, well, this is so slow.
It is. It's a time warp, I would imagine. And I was in Chicago about a week ago, and I was kind of thinking the opposite. Wow, this is too fast. And so very very nice to kind of get back to slow Mississippi. So.
Yeah. And you're born and raised here, a Southerner?
I was, born and raised here in Natchez. So lived here my whole life. Went to Ole Miss, University of Mississippi, and have been in Natchez my whole life. Other than that, so.
You are listening to the Radio Vagabond podcast. If you like what you hear, please leave a review in iTunes. If you're listening on an iPhone, you can actually do it right there within your podcast app. Another one of the locals is James. He's a very cool guy. He rides Harleys, and later he'll tell me about what it means to be an iron butt. And then he's been hunting
alligator hunting.
Yeah, you were hunting alligators.
Right.
And that's not something I hear every day. So how does it work?
Well, we take a fishing line, 1/4-inch fishing line, and put a hook on it, and we put chicken on it, and you hang it over the water.
How high over?
Well, anywhere from a foot to 18 inches. The higher you hang it, the bigger the gator. And he'll come up out of the water and get it, and you got about 40 foot of line that's coiled up in a bucket hanging in the tree, and they'll pull that twine out, go to the bottom and swallow it, and then they'll realize they hooked when they're trying to swim off, so they'll just sit there. They'll come up, get air, and go back down. When you come by the next day, you take the twine and jerk it, and it paralyzes them. It make them just...
So there's something inside the chicken, like a hook or...
A hook, yeah. It's a big, what we call a triple-aught hook. It's almost like a gaff. And and they swallow it. Well, then when you jerk that line, it punctures their stomach, and it kind of paralyzes them. So you just pull them in, hand over hand, till you get them to the boat, and then you shoot them.
You pull them onto the boat?
Up to the boat, and shoot them, and then we tie them to the back of the boat, because you can't, Our little old boat, you can't put them in because they're longer than the boat, you know. So, so we drag them to the bank and then pull them up on the bank, pick them up with a pickup truck and stuff. So, yeah, and we skin them out and sell the hide and keep the meat. Yeah.
Are they always paralyzed? It sounds.
No. Now they'll just float up until they break water. When they see you in that boat, then they go crazy. They just go to flouncing, biting, and snapping, and trying to get away.
Yeah, I would have. I was a crocodile.
Well, these are gators now, alligators. But they're anywhere from 7 to 14 foot. The biggest one we ever caught was right at 14 foot. And he was a handful. He weighed about 600 pounds. Yeah, so it took 3 horses just to pull him out of the water.
You said something about teeth marks in the boat?
Oh, yeah, they'll attack the boat when you pull them up and they break water. They'll attack the boat because you're standing there trying to pull him in. He'll attack the boat, and he'll put teeth marks all over the boat. Yeah, so they're dangerous.
So did you, honestly, James, did you do it for the money or for the hunt itself?
I did it for the hunt itself.
I knew it.
Yeah. Now the money we got went to the hunting club for supplies and stuff. So yeah, I did it for the pleasure. Yeah, the excitement.
So for people who don't know Natchez, what kind of place is it?
Yeah, Natchez is a great place. A lot of history, a lot of architecture. The thing I think that's probably most relevant historically is the Natchez was really a boom town in the 1800s with the cotton and agricultural trades. We were really a hub of commerce, and the wealth that was concentrated in here before the Civil War was vast. The architecture represents that very well, and one of the things that's a little bit unique about Natchez relative to other places, even Vicksburg, which is about 60 miles north, is during the Civil War, the Union troops never quite got to Natchez. They got to Vicksburg, which was about 60 miles north, Port Gibson probably 30 miles, but then the war ended, and so none of the homes, none of the architecture was burned or destroyed in the war, and so we've got somewhat of a time capsule in that we've got this great history and architectural offerings that it did exist in other parts of the state in the South, but most were destroyed in the war, and so we're sort of unique in that our preservation is significantly better than most of our neighbors.
That's why, yeah. It's Sunday afternoon, and I want you to listen to something. Have a listen to this. It's quiet, right? I've taken the car and been driving north for about half an hour through some amazing nature. Stunning, absolutely stunning. It's what they call the Natchez Trace. And right now I'm at Mount Lacoste, where there is an old house. It reminds me of something taken out of Little House on the Prairie, and it's a house that they set up so with all the furniture and the plates and the tools and all the stuff that was in the house 100 years ago, and it's still here, and it's been beautiful, and the nature here, wow, amazing. I went on a drive north of here, and it's so beautiful. Yeah.
Have you had a chance to drive on the Natchez Trace?
Yeah, exactly. That's
very nice.
I went a bit up there. Yeah.
When I do my training runs, I'll do a lot of them on the Trace on the Parkway, just because it's so nice, it's so serene, and just a beautiful place to run, and just really enjoy the scenery.
Yeah. You're listening to the Radio Vagabond podcast. Before we continue, I'd like to remind you that I would be so thrilled if you shared it on Facebook or Twitter.
It's fascinating. You've got separate and unique cultures, but then you've also got some shared and combined culture. And so there's not a single one-size-fits-all. There are certainly distinct cultures, but at the same time, the race relations and just by living in a small town, go to school with people, you see them in the supermarket, you see them around town, and so you really get to know people and have experiences with people of other races. And I would make the argument or the contention that some of our race relations are probably better here maybe than even other parts of the country. Now, the stereotype is not always the case, but there's also not many places in the U.S. that have 50% African American, 50% Caucasian. Most of the time, if you look at urban cities, that allocation may be lopsided one way or the other, and I think you get a lot of sort of retreat. People kind of pull into their cultures and may not cross lines with other cultures. Here, because we're such a small town, you're forced to. You see people in school, you have friends, you play at the park, the playground, and so it's kind of a fascinating melting pot of these different cultures. Yeah.
Back to James, talking about riding very far on his Harley, and you need an iron butt for that.
Oh, that's that does with motorcycles.
Because you ride a Harley.
Yeah, I ride a Harley, and they have a contest that you can sign up for, and it's all documented. They document everything, so you can't cheat. But yeah, it's distance riding in a certain amount of time. And I did 1,500 miles in 24 hours and got the golden iron butt classification.
Does it come with a trophy of an iron butt?
Yeah, well, you get a plaque to hang on the wall, and they post it on their Chronicles and Easy Rider magazine. So yeah.
And you still ride a lot of motorcycle, even though how old are you?
I'm 76 years old.
Yeah. You still ride?
Yeah, I still ride. I've had 2 Harleys in the last 25, 30 years, and I've got over 100,000 miles logged on them. So.
Not any plans of quitting anytime soon?
No, no time soon. Yeah. It's still fun.
I also talked to Forrest about this being Trump country.
It is. If you look at the way the state voted, Mississippi, obviously a red state, voted for Trump. The county that we're in now, Adams County, actually voted for Hillary Clinton. So we're in somewhat of a liberal pocket in a conservative state. So yeah.
So the people that voted for Trump, I'm not asking what you voted, but the people who voted for Trump, do they think he's doing a good job?
That's a good question. I would probably say, I think they probably, a lot of people probably do, and not so much by the merits of any achievement or lack thereof, but we're in a very polarized political climate. And, if he's your guy, he's your guy. If he's not your guy, he's not your guy. And performance or reality, unfortunately, probably doesn't sway that very much. You're kind of either in the Trump camp or you're not in the Trump camp, and the reality is that my observation, most people that have their minds made up, they're kind of made up, and there's probably not a lot of crossing of the fast. So if you're a Trump guy, you like what he's doing. If you're not, you don't like what he's doing. So.
I bet if we went back 5 or 10 years, we couldn't anticipate this. If someone pitched this political scenery as a movie, they would say, "Oh, that's too far-fetched."
Absolutely, and I'll take it even a step further. If you told me 5 or 10 months ago, I wouldn't have thought this was the case. So, it's funny. I've got these "Make America Great Again" hats that he was signing during the election. I've got a 5-year-old daughter, and I got one of these hats because I thought it would be just a neat relic of the time.
My nephew in Denmark bought one of those on eBay.
Sure. So same thing. And I said, 20 years from now, when my daughter's older, I'll show her this and I'll tell her about just this tumultuous time in our politics, just to kind of have some icon to reference to remember it. And lo and behold, he actually gets elected, which I certainly did not expect or see coming. And so, to your point, 5 or 10 months ago, I wouldn't have expected this. So sure, yeah.
This episode is brought to you in part by Hotels25.com. It's a website that helps you find the best prices on hotels around the world. Hotels25.com. It's best price guaranteed.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe in iTunes or the podcast app on your smartphone. You can see pictures, watch videos, and read much more on theradiovagabond.com. Pale can be reached for interviews and public speaking gigs on mail at theradiovagabond.com.
In the next episode, I'm getting into my rental car and we'll be driving down to New Orleans to celebrate 4th of July with Jax.
Okay, I'll see you in a bit, boy. I'll see you in a bit.
And I'm so looking forward to that. My name is Pale Bo. See ya.